This is Alfie, Alfalfa. You've seen him before. The big debate is, are his ears going to go up? I don't know. I'm pretty sure that they are. This morning they were up and now they're back down. What do you think? Your ears going to go up? He's doing really well. He's completely housebroken. He loves everybody. He even likes to hang out with the chickens, but he's doing really well. So this is Thanksgiving. This is Thanksgiving week, and I'm looking forward to it. My kids are coming, and that'll be nice. Not sure if we're going to have any other guests, but of course it's a big week of cooking. So looking forward to that. Now my favorite Thanksgiving stories, and geez, there's a lot of them. There's the one where we were having 40 people for dinner and the well pump broke. There was that one. And then there was when right after we adopted Kira, she arrived just a few days before Thanksgiving, and TJ was so put out by it that he threw up all over the Thanksgiving table. There was that one. But the best one is about the Thanksgiving turkey. And the Thanksgiving turkey story is that I called Ronnie Lee, who is a friend of mine, a farmer friend of mine, that lived, he farmed in East Windsor. And this family farm's been there for multiple generations, and he raises turkeys, among a lot of other things, but he does do turkeys. So I called him and I said, I want to pick out my turkey. I said, but I want you to leave the head on. And he was like, what, are you going to do it? And I'm like, no, we've decided we're going to rescue a turkey. We're going to pardon a turkey like the president does. So we went to Ronnie Lee's and we picked out a turkey, and he brought me the turkey, and we brought a dog crate with us, and we put the dog crate in the back of the truck, and we put the turkey in the dog crate. We went to visit friends who got to meet the turkey, other friends that live in East Windsor, Jimmy and Mel and their kids. And so they got to meet the turkey. And I asked the kids, what do you want to name the turkey? And they said, Uncle Matt. Now, this was a girl turkey. And Uncle Matt, who you've heard me talk about, my brother Matt, he was coming the day after Thanksgiving. He wasn't coming on Thanksgiving. He was coming the day after Thanksgiving. And so in the back of my head here, I have to tell my brother that we have a turkey and we're not having turkey leftovers, and that it's named after him. A girl turkey is named Uncle Matt. But we brought that turkey into the house in the dog crate and fed the turkey Thanksgiving dinner. I made eggplant parmesan, and we had a turkey for dinner as a guest. And that turkey was a wonderful turkey. I know many people find this hard to believe, but chickens and turkeys can be wonderful pets and can respond to affection and attention and can learn things. And this turkey was just wonderful. The turkey lived with the chickens, but never hurt the chickens. Even though it was 3 times the size of the chickens, it never hurt the chickens. It would sit on my lap. If I went out there and sat on a bale of straw, the turkey would jump in my lap and I could hold it and pet it. It was a wonderful turkey. And he lived about 6 or 7 years. He was Uncle Matt, the Thanksgiving turkey. So, all right, well, let me give the phone number. It's 888-399-PEGI. That's 888-399-7344 if you would like to call, because of course we take all kinds of questions here, which is fun. Now we're on both YouTube and Facebook streaming, so I'm not sure where you're looking at us, but if you are, if you could click on like and subscribe, that would be great. That's very helpful. We are over 100 subscriptions now. I guess that was a milestone, not huge, but hey, one subscription at a time, we'll take it. And if you could share the link, that'd be great. And if you have questions that you would like me to answer or pictures that you would like to send, you can go to my website, which is gardenwithpeggy.com. And I haven't done any blogging recently. It's been a busy time of year, but there's a place you can click on to chat with me, and you can send me questions and pictures, and I will then put them on the screen for the following week. You can call me and then we can talk about it. We can look at the pictures, and so can everybody else. So that would be great. Again, the number 888-399-7344. This is a little plant. Oh, it's not going to show up. It's going to be hard to show up because it's green. Maybe if I put it right in front of my face, then you can see it, right? Okay, it's so funny because of the green screen, it kind of fades away. But this plant, this very green plant, is a kind of Dracaena. And it's called Dracaena godseffiana, or gold dust Dracaena. You can see all the spots. That's so cool how it disappears with the green screen. Anyway, there's a story behind this plant. We went to IKEA yesterday. It was a big, night out, and we did some shopping, and we ate Swedish meatballs and had a grand time. And I bought this plant at IKEA. It's not like the place that you expect to go plant shopping, but they have everything there. Maybe not everything you want to buy, but they have so many things, so many weird things, interesting things. And it was fun, and we really did have a good time. But I saw this plant, and it's maybe I've seen it more locally and more traditional plant stores, but this one just kind of caught my eye. And so I decided that I had to have it. It's very healthy. It's small, but it's very healthy. And it has new growth coming, new leaves, new foliage, and it's very speckled, which is all very nice. But the reason that I wanted to have it is there's a story there. And the story is that when I was in the 4th grade, it was December of 1963. I know that's telling you how old I am, but regardless. And we moved to a much smaller house. Now, I was the youngest of 8 kids, so we grew up in a monster Victorian house with 3 floors, 8 bedrooms, an attic, a finished basement, 4.5 bathrooms. It was huge and beautiful. And but it was too big. Everyone, was gone, and it was too much for my mother to take care of at that point. So we moved to a much smaller house, and I had to change schools. And I went from Catholic school to public school across the street. And my mother sent me to school in my Catholic school uniforms until Christmas, when I got new clothes. And that was not the best decision to have been made at the time. And so I was very lonely and in this public school. Just as an aside, by 6th grade, I went back to Catholic school. I walked the 3 miles to Catholic school, but regardless. So here I was in the school without any friends. And they offered in the spring for people to buy their kids a house plant. And there was a list of plants that you could buy. Now, we didn't have any plants. My mother killed everything she touched. And we didn't have a vegetable garden because my father was a produce merchant. So why would we need that? So we never grew anything. And the few rare plants that I remember being in the house at different times, my mother successfully killed rather rapidly. So I didn't know. They didn't have pictures. They just had names. And so I picked one. My mother let me get one, and it was a plant about this size, and it was this plant, this Dracaena godseffiana, and they called it gold dust Dracaena. And I loved it, and it made me happy that I got a plant, and that I was everybody got plants. I got a plant. I felt like I was part of the crowd. I got a plant, and I put this plant on my dresser, not knowing it needed to be near a window. But it was there were bright windows in my room, and it's a low light plant. And Dracaenas are great house plants because they're all very tolerant of low light. And it sat there, and I didn't do anything to it, and it looked great. I suspect someone else in the household may have been watering it on occasion. And then I saw that someone had watered it, and I said, "Oh, I'm supposed to water it." Remember, I'm like 9 years old, and so I started watering it a lot. And I came in. And all the leaves one day, and I looked at it, and all the leaves had dropped onto the dresser, and it was dead as a stone. And that was my first plant that I killed. And I felt really, really, really terrible. My plant was my only friend, and I killed it, and it was not a good time. And so now whenever I see this plant, I tend to buy it. And I have to admit, they don't live forever. So the fact that I killed it when I was 9 is not as surprising as it sounds. But I saw this one at IKEA, and I decided I had to have it. It was calling my name, and it will go in the greenhouse, in one of the shady spots of the greenhouse. And it is a Dracaena, even though it doesn't look like more the more traditional dracaenas. The more traditional dracaenas have long, narrow leaves, not this, typical leaf-like leaf. They have long strap-like leaves or short strap-like leaves. But yeah, this one's kind of unusual, and I'm going to see if I can keep it a little longer than I did in the 4th grade. All right, let me give the phone number again. It's 888-399-7344. That's 888-399-PEGI. That's PEGI 7344. And let's do some slides. Let's do the chess set. Let's do the chess set. The chess set is finally done. The chess set is done. So I'm going to go over some of these slides, but it's completely done now. This is the king. And of course, obviously, I made 2 of them. And one I stained purple, and the other one I stained this kind of browny, orangey brown. And this is made of the 6x6. And those are fence pickets that were cut for me to size. Tommy trimmed them to the right length, but I went over to Taylor Fence, and they were wonderful. And you couldn't buy them individually at any of the local stores. So I went to Taylor Fence, and they cut them for me. And I was able to buy, you can buy them individually, and they cut them for you to make that nice shape on the top. And they were perfect, and they were pressure treated just like the 6x6. And since this chess set's going to live outside, that was great. Now, those little square corner pieces that usually are used over the corner of windows and doors were the handles to lift it up. So it was all together. And the centerpiece, the top of his crown, is actually a leg that you buy for furniture. And I got that at the big box store. But put it all together, I think he makes a very handsome king. So that's the purple, and had to definitely stir a lot, but it was a great purple. It goes pretty well with the color of the house. And that's it, partially purple. I have to say that the hardest part about painting these things was getting the inside of the pickets at the top, because there was not an easy way to get a brush in there. If I had thought about it, I might have painted that part before I put it all together, but I found a little tiny roller, and I used that and was able to get in there pretty good. And that's it, all purple. And then that's the one that I stained that kind of orangey brown, and that's the 2 kings. And here I, kept going. This is all the pieces that are purple. I mean, there's more. I did all the pawns. They were all done. Oh, this is a little visitor. Isn't he cute? He was hanging out with us for a while. And he's on the king. I guess, there's something there. Maybe he thinks he's king of the insect jungle, because he certainly is a biggie. And this is it out. This is all the pieces out. Obviously not all finished, but all the pieces out. And it looks pretty good, especially in the sun. That kiwi vine, we had to cut that kiwi vine back because it's kind of overtaking the chessboard a little bit. And this was something that I realized they sat firmly on the tiles, and the bottoms wouldn't dry. And that was a discovery. So as I'm staining them, I have to turn them over to do the bottom. So I would stain the main part of the piece, and then I would turn it over, and the bottoms weren't dry. So I needed to let them air dry before I could do the bottoms. And then this concerned me because I don't want them to rot from the bottom. So we came up with that we're going to need to put rubber feet on the bottom. And here's some of the rubber feet that we found. Did a lot of searching. Let me tell you, there's a lot of different kinds of rubber feet. Many kinds of rubber feet. And so these are the kind we got, and we decided screws would be better than nails. There's some that you could just nail in, that the nail is part of the rubber feet, and just tap them in. But I thought outside with the moisture that they might fall out. So, oh, can we go back a little bit? See, there's the one on the right, that pawn on the right. You can see he's raised up a little bit. So I'm hoping that'll be enough air circulation so that the bottoms can dry. And here they are, all finished. They don't have the rubber feet on yet, but they're all finished. I really like how this looks, except that the border of the chessboard was now annoying me. It's pressure treated wood. It was obviously the first thing that Tommy built the frame for me. I did the tiles on the inside, but Tommy built the frame for me. I don't like how it looks. So I stained it. That's pretty cool, right? It came out pretty good. So very pleased. It is now finished. It has all the rubber feet on it. And that's 128 rubber feet that we put on the bottom. And we stained the frame. And that was an afterthought, but we stained the frame. And that's it. Project took over a year. It took, over a year. The board was first. That was maybe 2 years ago, maybe. And then I've been working on the chess set pieces for a while, but now it is completely done. Thrilled with it. And Tommy found room in the garage. There's a shelf in the garage, and all the pieces have now been moved into the garage for the winter, but it is done. And I think it looks really cool. Okay. I think that's the last slide, right? Yes. Okay. So I should give the phone number again. It's 888-399-7344. That's 888-399-7344. No, I don't. No, I do not have my phone. Oh, yes, I do. Here, you need this? Here you go. So, all right. So let's do another slideshow. Oh, I wonder if Liz and Joe are watching, because I have the plant. Liz sent me a picture of her plant, so she needs to call so we can talk about it on the air. So now what is this week at Tiny Farm? All right. There's always interesting things going on at Tiny Farm. This camellia is outside in front of the house, and it's just stunning. The mild weather, it's just covered in flowers. And this poor plant, it would have had more flowers, but this is the plant that the raccoons decided to use, since it went all the way up to the roof line, that the raccoons that were living in my chimney used to climb up, and they broke a lot of the interior branches off, which was, very upsetting. So I pruned it, I shaped it. I'm hoping, it's on the back side though, so not so likely to fill in. That's the side that doesn't get a lot of light. So the fact that those branches were broken, but it would have been fuller on the top if the raccoons hadn't abused it. So, but even so, with what's left, it's just absolutely covered in flowers. So can we put this slideshow on hold? So we will get to that. And right now we're going to have a little chat with Bob, who's calling from Piscataway. Hey, Bob, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Peggy. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Hold on. So what's up?
The chess set looks amazing. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you. I have to admit I'm pleased with it. So thank you.
Yeah, very cool. I want to talk about potatoes. I harvested the last of my Yukon Golds the other day for Thanksgiving dinner. I haven't touched them yet, cut into any or anything. But when I last harvested some potatoes from the same crop, I guess in September, when we were getting ready to bake them, inside of the potatoes were these brown spots. Is that what I had looked into? What I think I read was that it's a nutrient deficiency in the soil, but the potatoes are safe. Is that true? Have you ever seen that?
No. But if it's not on the outside, if it's only on the inside, it would seem that is logical. I can't say absolutely that's what it was, but that's logical that it would be some kind of a deficiency. If it was on the outside working its way in, that would be a different story.
Okay.
That would be, if you cut it out and the rest of the potato, I would cut out the little brown spots and eat the rest. That's what I would do if it were.
No, you can't though, because the brown spots are throughout the potato.
How many are there?
Some of them, not all of them. Oh, let's say if you have the larger ones didn't seem to have them as much. I mean, there may be a dozen, but they're tiny. They're, not pin size, a little bigger than that. They look almost like dirt throughout the potato.
I have to say, Bob, I've never seen that. I've never seen that. Okay. But here's what we're going to do. I'm going to call Alan Dancer of this week. Alan Dancer farms in Cranberry, New Jersey, And he was mayor of Cranberry. His father was mayor of Cranberry. His grandfather was mayor of Cranberry. And they grew potatoes for multiple generations until the 1980s, when potato farmers had 5 bad years in a row. And interesting, one of the really bad years was the year of the best crop they had ever grown. Unfortunately, it was the best crop anybody had ever grown from Maine down to Georgia. And there were
Wow.
so many potatoes that the value of the potatoes dropped precipitously. And they had warehouses full of potatoes that nobody wanted because there were so many potatoes. And as a result, during the 80s, many potato farmers either went out of business or switched to some other crop. But Alan probably knows more about potatoes than any other 10 people in the world. So I will call Alan. If you could send me a picture of what these potatoes look like, I will call Alan and ask him what he thinks. And then next week I'll be able to tell you.
Okay, I'll try to. Well, as we're getting them ready for dinner, for Thanksgiving dinner, hopefully when we peel them and cut them, that this batch won't have that. The first batch didn't, so I don't really know what happened with the second batch. There were different sections of the area that I planted, so maybe that one section in particular was the one that had it. I don't know. We'll find out soon, though.
But we'll ask. And if I get the picture soon, if you can get me a picture soon, I can chat with Ellen and I can get back to you before Thanksgiving so that you know, and then we'll share it on the air next week. But I will ask him. He's a very dear friend. In fact, I introduced him to his wife, so he will definitely answer my question.
Okay.
And I will get back to you. How's that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good. Secondly, have you seen the commercial on TV? Speaking of potatoes, I think it's the Idaho potato conglomerate, where a family is together at the table, and mom is so proud. Grandma, grandpa are there, the children, the husband. Mom is so proud because she's telling everybody, "Oh, those green beans you're eating, I grew them in my garden. The salads you're eating, I grew it in my garden. The tomatoes you're eating, I grew it in my garden. The potatoes you're eating, I grew it in my garden." And everybody stops eating, and their jaws drop open. Grandpa's dentures fall into the pile of mashed potatoes, and they are like, "Ew, we're not eating those potatoes." Then the Idaho guy comes on and says, "Our potatoes are trusted. They're the best. Don't mess around with that." And it's like, really? Like, what are you trying to flip the script on homegrown potatoes being better than your potatoes? So it's a funny commercial, and it was really strange.
I have not seen it. I will look it up. That does seem slightly insulting to your every home gardener in the world. That does seem really
Very much so, yes.
Really a little unfair.
Yes.
And
yeah, I flipped the TV the bird. It's like you really get lost.
Good for you. And besides that, I think New Jersey potatoes are better than Idaho potatoes. And my reasoning for that is that Idaho tends to grow all russet potatoes. That's the classic potato from Idaho is the russet potato. And on the East Coast, and New Jersey used to have a tremendous number of potatoes. Route 33 is a road that you used to be able to get on in Middlesex, Mercer County, and stay on all the way to the ocean. And not that long ago, before this really bad thing happened in the 80s, you could not drive along Route 33 without seeing potatoes being grown on one side of the road or the other or both. So potatoes in the tri-county area of Middlesex, Mercer, and Monmouth, that area, grew some of the best potatoes ever. And in fact, Blooming Acres used to be a potato farm. And the reason that potatoes were so prevalent is that New Jersey soils, we are known as the Garden State, many of New Jersey soils are top of the line. You can't grow potatoes in poor soil very well. You need good loose soil for one thing. It's a root crop, and the roots need to be able to expand. So heavy clay soils make it difficult to grow potatoes. And really sandy soils, if they're too sandy, if they don't have a lot of organic matter in them, doesn't hold enough moisture because potatoes are a tremendous amount water. So you need number one prime soils are the best. And in that area, there were all number one prime soils. In fact, Blooming Acres, which, as I said, used to be a potato farm, had all number one prime soils. And as a result of that, we were able to get it into the farmland preservation program, even though it was only 9.5 acres or almost 10 acres, because we had prime soil and we were surrounded by preserved farms. So even though we were very small, but the kind of potatoes that were grown in this area are called round whites, as opposed to russets. And they're a more moist potato. And as Alan Dancer, who I mentioned earlier, the only difference between our potato as a baked potato and a russet that comes from, out there in the West in Idaho, is that you need 1 pat of butter on our potatoes and you need at least 2 on the Idahos because they're so dense. And I have found that to be true. So I prefer, I never buy russet potatoes. I always buy the round whites. If I want to bake them or microwave them, then they're nice and moist and chewy, have a nice texture and absorb. You don't need as much butter and they have great flavor. So I think our potatoes are better anyway, even the commercial ones.
Yeah, I do too.
So there you go.
I do too.
I'm gonna.
So I'm good with that.
I'm gonna flip that commercial, the bird too, if I see it. There you go. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah,
but
I've only seen it once, and I felt really insulted. Like, what? How dare you say that? About my potatoes in my garden. So, and then of course I do have those brown markings. Nancy said it may be something called rust, potato rust. I don't know if that's true or not, or she was just mentioning it. That looks like rust. She's upstairs, but I'll probably cut into one. Pardon?
Yes, send me the picture. I'll send it to Alan and we'll figure it out.
Okay. Thank you so much and have a happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
You too. Thanks for calling. All right. Bye-bye now.
All your listeners. Okay. Bye-bye.
Who would put such a yucky commercial on? Really? I mean, we're trying to encourage home gardening and the reduction of the use of pesticides and the healthfulness of being outside and the appreciation of the effort that goes into gardening and teaching kids about gardening and how important that is. And they do this commercial. Chitabibby. You know what a chitabibby is? Chitabibby is what my father used to say when you were getting a shot upside the head. They need a chitabibby. Okay, we're going to go to the phone and we're going to talk to Anne Marie. Hey, Anne Marie, how you doing?
Good, I'm good. Good morning. It's interesting to talk about potatoes because when I was a little girl, my aunt lived right there on Milltown Road, just up from Herbert's Corner, because all of that property, with the exception of the few houses that faced Milltown Road, was Herbert's potato farm. And when they would have the harvest and all the potatoes were picked, Mr. Herbert always told all the neighbors, oh, you could let the kids go out and pick any of the potatoes they find. So that was always big fun to go find potatoes. And after they had been harvested, the good sized ones, there were all these nice small potatoes that didn't get taken. And that was a great thing for kids to do growing up.
That does sound like a great thing. And since then, there has been something called gleaning that a lot of the farmers do after they go through and harvest whatever they want to do. They allow gleaning, which is what the kids were actually doing, is going through and picking up what was left. And there are different organizations that go out and glean to get fresh produce for food banks, which is some companies actually, larger companies actually sponsor it and allow their employees to take a day or an afternoon to go to these farms, including potato farms, and glean what's left, and then they take it to food banks and donate it, which is kind of a nice thing. But it was nice for the kids to do too. But another kind of interesting aside about potatoes, it used to be that the really small potatoes nobody wanted. They were too small and they were discarded.
Now they're prime.
Yes. Now they sell the little, golf ball size potatoes at a super high price. And I've seen them in bags at the market where they have all the different color potatoes, the small ones in a bag, and they are premium potatoes. So one man's garbage is another man's treasure.
Potatoes, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the expression. That's small potatoes. That expression means that it's kind of, not too important. Well, guess what? Small potatoes are now premium potatoes. So life does have its cycles, Anne-Marie, for sure.
Well, another memory of those days were when small eggs, pullets, were sold by the dozen. And that was always great when you had a big family, because at Easter, when it came time to dye the eggs, how many dozen eggs could your mother really have hard boiled for you kids to do? So we would dye all those little small eggs. It was great fun.
That does sound like great fun. Those are good memories, Anne-Marie. Those are good memories. Now, Anne-Marie came to visit me the other day, and she brought me two really interesting things. And one was the streptocarpus. She calls it streptocarpella, and I've seen it called both in the literature, with a bunch of roots. So next week, I will have pictures of how we potted them up. I've already taken a picture of the one in the jar with all the roots, so we'll do that. But the really weird thing she bought me was 2 popcorn plants. And those are the plants that make the yellow flowers that when you walk past them, they smell like buttered popcorn. Now, I don't know why, but everybody that I talked to that had those plants did not get any flowers or only a few flowers. Now, Anne-Marie grew hers in containers, and they are now over 3 feet tall. They look like palm trees because they have long, skinny stems. But I am going to keep them in the greenhouse, and I'm going to see if I can't get them to bloom in the greenhouse over the winter. So thank you for that, because I didn't get any seeds. So I'm hoping we can get them to bloom in the greenhouse and make seeds, because I have no seeds for next year. So thanks for bringing them. It's very weird.
Oh, you're welcome. But our daughter planted hers outside, but it never bloomed.
Right. And Jordan had them and they didn't bloom. And I gave some to my doctor and he said it didn't bloom. And I don't know of anybody's that bloomed. I don't know why. The ones that I had the previous year got almost 6 feet tall and were covered in flowers. But I don't know, obviously. And my Mexican petunias never did much either. I mean, they put out a few flowers, but they didn't get big. And I don't, maybe.
No, I got flowers on Mexican petunias. But I'm telling you, we're having a bumper acorn year because it's the year that everybody should have lots of acorns and they're healthy and wonderful. As long as you don't step on them and break your ankle, you're in good shape.
Well, that means if you have that many acorns, that next year you're going to see an abundance of squirrels. They will increase in population.
We already have an abundance of squirrels. Thank you. And you know they like to come on my deck and they eat everything that the deer would have eaten on the ground if I would let them. But I like squirrels on the ground. They just shouldn't be in my plants.
I agree. I like to watch them run on the fence, and I like it when they have really bushy tails, which means that they're healthy. And we have a few squirrels here that we don't have that many squirrels. We have some squirrels, but but the whole acorn thing, it's just when you have an increase in the population of acorns, which is sometimes called a mast year, when you have a tremendous number of acorns, it's called a mast year. And then they store all the acorns so that there's plenty of food for the babies. So all the babies survive in the spring. The problem is the following year that you have an increased population of squirrels in general, and you may not have a mast year. And so nature is self-correcting in a kind of very cruel way, but that's what happens. So yes.
No, we actually have a couple of black squirrels in our neighborhood. We only had one, now we have two. Well, and down by the lower school, they have a couple of white ones.
Oh, wow. The white ones are albinos, sorry. But the black ones, there was a big competition between Rutgers and Princeton because Princeton had black squirrels and Rutgers didn't. Now, it's been studied since that black squirrels will show up in an inbred population. So if you have like a neighborhood or a campus where the squirrels are confined, and outside of that is a less desirable area so that the squirrels stay within a particular neighborhood or area or a campus or whatever, and so that they stay there and they don't breed outside of that area, that black squirrels will show up because it's a recessive gene, so that if you inbreed the squirrels and the squirrels stay within that confined area, that eventually they will show up. I think the albinos are more of an aberration. I don't think that's a genetic recessive, although I suppose it could be, but definitely the black squirrels. So my friend Joe, who worked at the greenhouse, he was a big guy, really big guy, big Italian guy, nice guy, a little rough around the edges, but really nice guy. Years ago, he went to Princeton and he trapped black squirrels.
Oh, wow.
And brought them to Passion Puddle over on Douglas campus.
Douglas.
And released the black squirrels so that Rutgers, who's in constant competition with Princeton forever, certainly at least as far back as football goes, since the first college football game was played between Rutgers and Princeton. I don't even know who won. Tommy, do you know who won that game, that original game? But Rutgers and Princeton have always competed, and in many ways, Rutgers comes in second place. So Joe did not want us to not have black squirrels. I don't know if I know that he caught them. I know he released them. I don't know if they stayed. I don't know if they still have black squirrels, but I do know that story is true.
Okay, that's interesting, because if he released them at Passion Puddle at Douglas, if they got to Riders Lane, we have also seen them down by Arboro Pool, which is right off of Riders Lane if you come into Milltown a couple of blocks. So maybe the ones we have are actually Rutgers graduates.
They could be. They could be. That, yes.
There you go.
So, but
I'm going to say that's true.
Okay.
I vote for that.
Okay. Two thumbs
I have
up.
Rutgers graduates in my family, so I'm going to tell them, guess what?
Yeah.
That'll be my Thanksgiving story.
I think that's a very good possibility, but that Joe did that is absolutely true. So, all right, Anne-Marie, is there anything else I can do for you today?
Okay, have a great day and a happy Thanksgiving to you and to all of our other listeners.
Yes, you have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Your chessboard is amazing. It was beautiful to see it all stained up and everything. So you are really amazing.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm glad it's done. It's one project to scratch off the list. Next, I have to work on the totem pole. That'll be next year's big project. So.
I know it's too cold to work out there. You have to have inside projects now, and I know you have.
Yeah, I have a few
on your
of those.
list already.
I do. All right. Well, happy Thanksgiving. Give Uncle Art a hug, and I'm sure we'll talk soon.
I will. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
That's to Tommy.
All right. So, any more callers? I should give the phone number. I thought I saw Mary from Warren on there. Did she try to call and then we lost her? But I thought I saw her name up there. Well, whoever's out there, the number here is 888-399-PEGI, P-E-G-I. That's 7344. Is that right? 7344. Okay. So we're going to go back to This Week at Tiny Farm. And we did the camellia. So let's move on. This camellia is the camellia that is the first fall blooming camellia that ever crossed my path. And this is at my Ocean Grove house. And obviously it's covered in flowers and covered in buds. And you can see the close-up picture. Look at all the buds that it's surrounded by. When that thing is covered in flowers, it is spectacular. And this picture was just taken this week. Actually, Jordan took this picture, and it's gorgeous. So I took this picture. Roses, the last rose of summer, looks like we haven't even gotten there yet because there's quite a few buds on this. I took this picture at the township building. We were paying taxes. And I saw these roses blooming, so I went over and took a picture. But that is a perfect rose, and it's autumn, but it's so nice to see the bright colors. It could use a little pruning. I don't know how much attention they actually give to the rose bushes, but this particular specimen is doing its best to stay fabulous. All right, this was last weekend. I went out and I pulled out some. The onions started growing again. They had died down. They were in the ground. I left them in the ground, and with all the rain, they started growing again. So I pulled these for dinner. We made, for my daughter's birthday, I made breaded pork chops, which is what she asked for her birthday. And I like to chop up onions and put them in the breading. And so they looked pretty good. I was very, very pleased. All right, I apologize for this picture. I should have gone out and taken pictures sooner. This is the hardy cyclamen. It blooms in October. And I planted them a couple years ago, and I did not think any of them came up. And when Jordan and I were out there cleaning up this area in front of the house, I found a whole patch of them, and I was thrilled, but I didn't take a picture. So this is kind of definitely past its prime, but I wanted to show you because it is something that blooms in October. The foliage comes up in the spring and kind of fades, but it makes these, they're very small. They're very small. They're only about 4 inches tall, but when you have a whole patch of them, they're really very pretty. So this is a hardy cyclamen. They are a bulb plant. You can, if you can get your hands on any now, they can still be planted, but they are kind of special that they bloom so late in the season. Oh, well, Anne-Marie was talking about my other projects. Thought I'd just show you these guys. These are bears. You can tell that they're bears. These are what we call memory bears. And I made both these bears. I have made others. And these are made out of the clothing of, actually, in this case, a friend of a friend who passed away. And they are made, the gentleman was a fisherman. And so you can see he has some worms in his pocket and a blue fish in his pocket. And the other one in the overalls, both those shirts are made from shirts of his. And I gave the one in the blue overalls. He has a very successful fishing expedition. He's carrying 3 fish: pink fish, blue fish, brown fish. And I made him little fishing lures out of feathers to attach to his hats. So I have 5 more bears to make this winter. So on snowy, cold, wet, rainy days, I will be making bears. All right, I showed you this picture last week. This is a senecio that is growing like crazy. It didn't do anything for a while, but growing like crazy. And if you look at the picture on the right, that's the flower buds, and it has quite a few flower buds. And that's what they look like when they open, which is kind of weird. And they have a weird smell, not a real offensive smell. It's not like the smell of those kinds of plants that are fly pollinated that smell like rotting carrion. It's not like that, but it's not a real sweet smell either. But the flowers are kind of cool looking. They look a little Sputnik-y. They're different, and they finally popped. They popped this week. So that was kind of fun. All right, this is in the Garden of Ancient Ruins, and these are called sensitive ferns, and they spread pretty easily, and they're doing really well where they're planted. But I'm showing you this because these are what's called sporulating fronds. Now, we don't call them leaves, we call them fronds. And a sporulating frond is a frond that makes spores. And the spores are how ferns reproduce. Now, in most cases, it looks like a regular frond, and then there's the little spores are in like little polka dots on the underside of the leaves. In many ferns, that's how it works. But in this particular kind of fern, it makes these very unusual sporulating fronds that don't look anything like a regular frond, and they're woody. They get quite hard and very woody. And you can harvest them and collect them, and you can use them in dried flower arrangements. You can paint them. I've even seen them dipped in gold and made into jewelry. They're lovely, and they last a really long time. They are really, really woody, which is just surprising. You can see all the regular fronds around them that have dried up and given up for the season, but the sporulating fronds not only can be harvested, but they create winter interest. They're just really fun and cool to look at, and I get excited. I've had them for a couple of years now, but this is the first year that there's been a really nice crop of the reproductive phase, the sporulating fronds. So I got kind of excited when I saw these. All right, this is a picture that Anne-Marie sent me. This is Uncle Art's passion flower that's blooming indoors at this time. So yay, that's always exciting to have something wonderful bloom inside. This is Jordan's Christmas cactus. I think that's pretty. It's already dressed for Christmas. It's got little ornaments in there, but that is a spectacular plant. It's doing really, really well and makes me smile to look at it. And this is mine. I showed you pictures of it in bud. This is more of a hot pink, but the flowers are just so outrageous. They're complex and interesting, and they come in so many colors. And obviously, mine is blooming in time for Thanksgiving. It may continue to bloom. It may still have flowers at Christmas. They call them Thanksgiving cactus. They call them Christmas cactus. They call them Easter cactus. They're all related. The bloom time is triggered by both temperature and day length. And you can force any of them to bloom pretty much at any time if you give them the right environmental conditions. But this one just sits up against the wall of the house in the greenhouse. So it's as far away from the light as possible, from the direct sun. It sits there. It lives there all the time. It was actually given to me in a 3/4 dead state. There was very little alive in it. And I brought it back and I still have it. And it's just lives in that spot. I don't move it. It kind of reigns over the table where I do all my propagating. But because you don't want to do propagation in a really sunny location because things will dry up. So how many more slides do we have for this? Okay, let's do the next one. I think we're getting down to the end. Oh, this is the puppy hanging out with the chickens. The puppy, Alfie, loves everybody and everything and goes into the chicken coop when I'm taking care of the chickens, doesn't chase the chickens. The chickens don't chase him. And he seems to just, enjoy hanging out with the chickens, which is kind of fun. And lastly, this is my Thanksgiving poinsettia. This is the orange poinsettia. I've showed it to you for a couple weeks, but it just keeps getting more and more orangey and should be magnificent on Thanksgiving Day. So I'm very pleased with this orange one. Okay, so who do we have on the phone? Oh, it's Mary from Warren. So I did see her before. Hey, Mary, how you doing? Okay, sorry.
Good.
Good. How are you?
Good.
Okay, what can I do for you today?
I got from a friend a gorgeous Boston fern that actually it's a friend of a friend. She had outside all summer, and doesn't have room in her house to bring them in. But in the past, I've never had too much success with them, and I wondered if you had any tips about trying to get a Boston fern to survive through the winter.
It's so funny that you should bring that up at this point in time, because at the Ocean Grove house, there's an oak tree that shades all the plants in front of one side of the porch. And the other side of the porch gets blazing sun because it faces south. It doesn't get any of the shade from the oak tree. So on the shady side, I put a very tall plant stand. And I wanted, and it was like the plants were kind of low in that area. And so I put a plant stand that went above all the shrubbery, and I put a Boston fern on top of it. And I brought it home, and it's enormous. It grew with all the rain. It grew and grew. It's easily 3 times the size that it was when I put it there to begin with. It's between 3 and 4 feet across. That's how huge it is. So I understand your dilemma. And the problem with bringing them inside is that they shed like crazy. And you'll be sweeping up underneath it on a regular basis. It just sheds. That's why I don't have a Boston fern in my house. I didn't have a Boston fern. Before I had a greenhouse, I kept all my houseplants in the house, and I didn't want a Boston fern in the house because it sheds so much. So you're going to have to deal with that. Even if you keep it healthy, it's going to shed those little leaflets all over the place. But it doesn't need blazing sun. So where I put mine, again, I found another plant stand. It's on like a stool, and it's in the sitting area of my greenhouse, but on the side of it, not against the wall of the house, but the opposite side. So it's not under the greenhouse, but it's as close as it can be to being under the greenhouse without being under the greenhouse. because there's a wall there. There's a knee,
Oh,
a knee
okay.
wall, so it's there. So it gets some sun that comes in at an angle because again, the greenhouse faces south, but it's filtered through all the other plants and it's bright all day, but it doesn't get a lot of direct sun. It gets some because, as the sun goes down, it does come in a little bit at an angle. So it'll get a little bit of direct sun, but very, very little. And it seems to be doing really well. It's been there about 6 weeks now. And so I brought it in at the beginning of October, maybe the first week in October. So it's been there about 6 weeks and it's doing really well. The one thing you want to be sure of is never let it get really dry, because if it gets really dry, it'll just like shed a whole bunch all at once. And even if you water it and it recovers and it doesn't seem to show any long-term negative effects from that, it will still drop a whole bunch of leaflets at that point. So you want to make sure it doesn't ever dry out, and you want to give it good light. And if you have humidity, that helps even more, but that's, a little trickier to get a place where you have humidity, where you have to put a big plant. Like a bathroom window would be great, but a big plant like that usually doesn't fit in a bathroom unless you have a ginormous bathroom or a kitchen window. But again, your kitchen window is often over your kitchen sink, and who has room for a 3-foot, Boston fern there? So another option,
Yeah, not me.
right? Another option is you can take it out of the pot and take your reciprocating saw and divide it into quarters and repot it and cut it back so that it's smaller, and it very likely will regenerate in a smaller pot, and then it'll be a smaller plant.
Oh.
You can do that.
Oh, that's kind of a good idea.
Yeah, if you you can do that. I mean,
because it's just massive.
Right, and they will survive. They will survive that. It may take them a while before they look great again, but they can survive that.
Oh, all right. I might give that a try.
Well, please take pictures and send them to me as part of the process. Can you do that?
Sure.
That would be fun. We can feature
I will.
Mary's attacking the Boston fern. We'll get that. That would be fun. That would be fun. And then, that would be fun. So if you can, take a series of pictures step by step and send them to me, you will have your own featured segment on Garden with Pegi. That would be fun.
Ooh. Yeah, that would be fun.
Yes.
That would. Okay. I'll have to get on that.
Okay.
So, but first I have to go to the garden today because I got my poo, my sheep manure yesterday, and I got to go get that in. That has time to do good things all winter.
Well, any other garden projects? I do want to remind everybody that, digging up what's left of your potatoes on the day after Thanksgiving is always a good idea. So do you have any potatoes in the ground, Mary?
I actually do still have potatoes in the ground. And they're mostly potato chip potatoes. Apparently there is a variety of potato that they grow specifically to make potato chips.
I don't know what that is. I don't doubt that at all. And I'm sure there's even specific varieties that are grown to make French fries, because the biggest market for potatoes these days is French fries and potato chips. So I'm sure that they would have very specific varieties that are preferred, that hold up for whatever reason. I don't know what they are, but it would not surprise me at all that there would be very specific varieties that are preferred.
For that. So why would my sister got them for me?
Why would you grow? Are you a potato chip fanatic? Which I can say, there are days when I would qualify to be that person. So, so do you make your own potato chips?
Not really. I've only done it a couple of times. It was fun. It was just a little kind of experiment there. And now I have actually an air fryer as part of my like toaster oven and stuff that's on the cabin on the countertop. It has an air fryer setting, and so I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to.
So you can make potato chips in an air fryer? Is this what we're saying here?
Yes, yeah. You just spray them with a little oil. I actually have some avocado oil I was going to spray them with, and put them in the air fryer. So they're not as, there's not as much fat in them. So it's a little bit better for you. So that's one of the things I'm going to try when I dig them up.
Keep your camera handy. I want to see this. I don't have an air fryer, and well, you've seen my kitchen. My kitchen is very small, and which is the exact opposite of my kitchen at my beach house and at Blooming Acres. I had huge kitchens. I have huge kitchens in both those places, but I have a very small amount of counter space. As I said, my kitchen is very small, but we maximize the use of it. I mean, I tortured the designer that I worked with to get every available inch of space utilized. And the only reason the kitchen works at all is that I have a significant size pantry. Why they stopped making pantries in houses, I will never know. But my house is very old and I have a pantry. So that's where all the food goes. So I can manage with the amount of cabinets I have because I have the pantry. But I don't have a lot of counter space. And so I don't even keep a coffee maker out because we don't drink coffee. And so we take it out if we have company and we're making coffee. So, and that is why I don't have an air fryer. That is why I've never tried an air fryer. Because I have no counter space to put anything. I'm lucky I have my blender and my mixer up there. And that's really the only, and my toaster, of course, but that's it. There's not room for anything else to go on the counter. So
yeah,
I'm jealous.
This is,
so you have to take pictures.
This is part of it's like one of those 10-in-1 things that has all sorts of different things in it. And we're actually using it as our oven now because our oven died. And I don't know when or if we will replace it. But yeah, I'll send you a picture of it. It's kind of cool. It works well.
All right. Well, if you make these potato chips, I want to know about this. So that would be great.
Okay.
Ovens I have plenty of ovens. That's the one thing I do have. But if you do replace your oven, I will tell you that I love my oven. I have a wall oven, like a regular wall oven. And the only reason I have a wall oven is I got it at the thrift store for $29. And it was brand new. It was never used. And they said, if it doesn't work, just tell us and we'll give you your money back. I mean, so how could I lose? So it works fine. And when we designed the kitchen, we designed a space to put this wall oven. But my other oven, which is a regular oven with a range top, is very cool. It's a double oven, but it's not just a regular double oven. It's a super cool double oven. It has a door that you open the door regular, and there has a small oven on top and a small oven on the bottom. But there's a divider, and you can pull the divider out, and then it's a big oven. So then there's room to put your turkey in there. But if you leave the divider, yes, but if you leave the divider in, you can open just half the door. There's a magic button that you push and it opens just half the door. And so if you're just making one thing, you can just use the very small oven. So if you're just doing your green bean casserole, or you're just making a cake and you just can use a small oven, you can just use the small oven. And here's the really cool part. You can cook in the top oven and the bottom oven at the same time at different temperatures.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Isn't that awesome? Yeah.
That is.
Yeah.
That is.
So you broil in the top oven. And if you're broiling that degree of temperature difference, you can't do two different things at the same time. Because I think the difference is 150 degrees. You can do 150 degrees difference or something like that. So you can do 350 and 450, but if you do broil, I don't think you can do 350 in the other one. So there's a few little, small things, but I've always been able to do whatever I wanted to do. So it works out. And I never take the divider out because I have the big oven, the wall oven that I use. So I can have all three ovens going at the same time. Yeah. Isn't that cool?
Oh,
yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you decide to replace your oven, you might want to look into this because I love it. I just love it. And the stovetop has a griddle in the middle. So it's got, 4 regular burners and then a griddle in the middle. So it comes with that, with the thing to put on top. So yeah, you may want to look into it. If you want more details about it, you can reach out to me and I'll give you more details. But it is Thanksgiving is coming and Christmas is right behind that. So we're all going to be doing a lot of cooking. So I may have all 3 ovens going at the same time.
That's true. Oh, yes. I'm actually lucky. Since my daughter got married this year, she's going to do Thanksgiving at her house.
Well, have fun with that.
So,
Yes. Yes.
yes. Yeah, that will be special for us. So,
All right. Well, you have a
But-
wonderful holiday and keep your camera going so that we can see all the wonderful things that you're going to be doing because that'll be fun. And
Okay.
enjoy your daughter's house. That'll be fun. That'll be great.
thank you. Yes. And you enjoy having the kids. It's always nice to be with the kids on the holidays.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. All right. Thanks for calling.
Okay.
All right.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye-bye.
Okay. So I have a few comments, which is kind of fun. I love this whole comment thing. So Rob F, I don't know who that is, but he's been commenting. He says, good morning all. And my dear friend Patty said, Peggy, you are so creative. You'll have to teach me how to play. I assume that's my chess set. And Nancy, my good friend Nancy, Rutgers won the first game in 1869. Yay, go Rutgers. Okay, we should have little black squirrels with like little Rutgers with t-shirts on. Could be our motto. So yes, so that's very good to know. All right, so how much time do we have? Oh, we're done. We're done. We got to, oh my, I had so many more things I wanted to show you. Okay, well, we'll just have to save them for next week. I hope everybody has a wonderful, happy, healthy, totally enjoyable Thanksgiving. And I will be here. I will be cooking all week. So I don't know how much gardening I'm going to be doing, but I will be here next week, same time, same place. So until then, have a joyful one. Bye-bye.
One, two, three, four.